word to wise. Grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, we're going to be talking about Static Season 1, Number 4 by Vita Ayala, Chris Cross, and Nicholas Draper Ivy. And in this video, we're going to talk about some of the themes of mistrust in law enforcement that come up in this comic, and more importantly, finally learn what's up with that mysterious black sand that Static discovered in Curtis Metcalf, aka Hardware's secret stash. We're also going to learn a lot more about how the Bang Baby's powers consume energy as a whole. We're going to talk about all this and more right now, but first, if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button because I post multiple videos throughout the week, plus live stream every Saturday. That way you don't miss anything. Also, we're really close to hitting 75,000 subscribers, and I want to hit that number before we get to the end of the year. So if you haven't done so already, consider becoming one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. Also, if you enjoy the video, I humbly ask that you Hulk smash that like button because it really helps the channel out. That said, let's talk about Static Season 1, Number 4. Okay, so when last we left off with this mysterious government organization has been trying to round up all of the different Bang Babies, people who have been affected by the tear gas that happened at the Black Lives Matter protest that gave people superpowers. This organization has been going hard body after the Bang Babies, trying to capture them, to experiment and run tests on them, and in other cases, take other Bang Babies and turn them into weapons against other Bang Babies. We saw this with the character Francis, aka Hot Streak. He is throwing in his lot with this organization, even kind of turning on the mission that the character Holocaust was putting together, even though Holocaust technically abandoned his own mission when the government organization arrived. These people are well outfitted. They come swooping in with all kinds of crazy tactical gear and high-tech weaponry. They look like something straight out of a futuristic sci-fi dystopia movie. And right now, they've already rounded up one of Static's own friends, Daisy, who Static hasn't heard from in days, and more importantly, we know that Daisy is concerned, that she's worried for her own safety because she reaches out to their mutual friend, Darius, the streamer and YouTuber who's been cataloging all of these events so far. Right now, they're going after Virgil in his own home, even having the audacity to try and lure Virgil out to basically appeal to Virgil's parents' better nature, to their sense of wanting to protect their own son, trying to convince them it's a good idea to turn Virgil over to this shady government op. And one of the things I really appreciated here is the sense of family in this, and not only that, but the total mistrust of law enforcement. These guys think that, oh, I'm just gonna wave a badge and they're just gonna let me in, they're gonna let me do whatever I want, even pretending that they're the ATF, trying to make it seem like, oh, yeah, we're the Department of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, you should totally listen to us, we're totally in this for your own protection, that we're gonna try and help Virgil, but we all know that that's a lie. And one of the things that could have very easily been done here, and I'm not gonna lie, if this would have happened, I would have been incredibly upset with this comic, is in any other comic, Virgil's parents would have turned him over. They would have completely said, you know what, we need to save our son, we need to find out what's going on with him, let's turn him over to these guys, what's the worst that could happen? But in this comic, I really appreciated that Vita Ayala really saw that this was not the move, this was not the wave to go. They did an amazing job depicting Virgil's parents as being protective of him, because when the ATF, quotey fingers ATF leave, they do reveal that they do want to protect Virgil. They want to protect him from anyone who's going to try to do harm to him, but they're also going to be overprotective of him because they want him to go somewhere else. They want him to go into hiding, and Static doesn't want to hide. But I do appreciate this line, literally verbatim, I freaking loved it, is when Virgil's father says the impact of the police gassing peaceful protesters, most of whom were children, is a complete lack of trust in law enforcement. And how his mother doubles down on this is like, yeah, no, we're not doing anything with you. And I love how the people of the neighborhood even get involved in this, even going as far as people pulling out their phones and taking pictures and taking video and even live streaming everything that's happening at the Hawkins residence to basically help support this family and say, yeah, we know these guys are up to something. We know that Virgil didn't do anything. We're going to protect Virgil, and even pointing out that Francis, Hot Streak, was the one who burned their home. I love the fact that these people are getting behind him. It's a sense of community, and even kind of showing how even when, and this is another moment that I thought it could have easily gone the other way, when this, Quotey Fingers ATF agent decides to give Miss Hawkins a card to try and be like, oh, hey, take this card and, just call me in case anything comes up. She rips it up right in front of him, and I was really proud to see that. But once again, I love the sense of family in this comic. And one of the things I saw, and this is a criticism I've seen going around a lot, is people talk about how, the dialogue in this comic is unrealistic. Things people say in this comic is unrealistic. I actually think it's hilarious. Being a black person who is also a content creator, I'm on social media all the time. A lot of my friends and family, also black, on social media, all of them talk like this. I have seen even complete strangers, some of you who approach me in the comments on YouTube or approach me on Twitter, on other forms of social media. I see a lot of you talk this way as well. So when I see people getting upset that, oh, this isn't how black people talk, I'm like, nah, this is how black people talk. I've seen this. I've literally witnessed this. I've even said some of these things myself. So I actually think it's a really funny criticism that people bring up. It makes me really wonder, like, if it's one of those situations where, a mirror is being held up to you and you don't like what you see in that mirror. But neither here nor there. The other thing I wanted to point out here is I really love the sense of family in regards to Virgil's sister. And once again, I said this when the first video that I did for Static way back, but I really like what they did with his sister, Sharon, who was, for the most part, and this actually kind of goes double for his parents, but Robert and Jean Hawkins were essentially non-characters in the original Milestone comics run. I mean, yeah, you saw Sharon a lot, you saw Jean a lot, but Robert was practically invisible in that comic. And I love the fact that they all have been given something more to do, but I really appreciate that Sharon is not so much an antagonistic sister character in this as she was in the original comics. Yes, they antagonize each other as brother and sister are wont to do, but I appreciate the fact that of all the people who, Static can rely on, his sister is the one who has his back harder than anybody else, even his own two parents. We've seen this in the previous issues, and even more so now, how she's revealing that she knows how the Bang Baby's physiology works, that because she works as a paramedic and she has seen people that she has picked up who have powers, and she's watched how their bodies have burned out, and she's even gone as far as knowing that Static is going to go out here, he's going to use his powers, he's going to try and do what's right, he's not going to let his parents keep him held up in the house and hiding away from the world. She knows he's going to go out there, and she wants him to protect himself. Now, he already does have the fancy suit, the fancy powers. Now, of course, she's going to hand over his patented jacket that we saw him pick up in the previous issue, but she's going to line it up with a bunch of glucose tablets so that he can keep himself energized at all times, because his body is going to be burning energy just using his powers. And more importantly, he needs to refill this energy. This is something we don't really see get brought up in comics as often as I would like. We see this in regards to comics like with the Flash, especially in the past, how Barry Allen, Wally West, all of the different Flashes using their super speed, and of course just the nature of how their body responds to having this power, it requires immense amounts of energy, meaning they're always eating food. We don't really get to see that a whole heap of a lot in comics, but I appreciate that in this, Static is addressing that and that he needs to constantly eat. She even brings up how there's always 3 empty cereal boxes in the morning. There's always food missing. Virgil is always eating up food because his body is just burning energy at an alarming rate. I thought that was really cool that she came through and said, yeah, I can help you out with this, and even said that there's a panic button that I put inside your jacket, so if you need help, hit that button and I'm gonna come running and I will get you set up with more glucose so that you don't burn yourself out. The other thing I love in this comic, and we actually posited this in the previous video, that in this black metal sand that he's discovered in Curtis Metcalf's safe house, that it might just be a way for him to kind of get some of his more traditional accessories that we've seen in previous comics, that he can manipulate this sand with his powers, and that this sand can become, well, sand, or it become an actual solid object. And he's even shown that he can turn this stuff into armor. He can use it to lift things even more than what he normally could with his electromagnetic abilities. He can even use it to fly, creating his trademark, manhole cover that he would use to fly around. So yeah, it was about roughly what I thought it was. That said, the plan is simple. This issue, Darius and Static are going to go after this government organization. And real quick, just in this moment right here, I do want to point out, I really like that Virgil finally apologized to Darius. Now, granted, I know a lot of people were like, oh yeah, good, Virgil gave Darius the business because he was trying to out him as a superhero. But here's the thing, everyone kind of already knew or suspected in some way, shape, form, or fashion anyway. He literally had a big dukaroo outside of his own house against Hot Street. streak. And Darius isn't doing this, as he even says in this panel, but I've even said this 2 or 3 issues ago, that Darius doesn't strike me as someone who's trying to chase clout. He seems to genuinely care about what he's doing and trying to spread the word. You can even tell from the Milestone Returns 0 issue, the Infinite Edition version, where we're first introduced to Darius, and he doesn't seem like the type of guy who's trying to get famous off of this. He's trying to legitimately help people, and I thought it was funny that a lot of people who were reading this comic didn't see it that way at all. It was almost like they weren't reading it. Anyways, they're going to storm this quotey fingers, and it's literally in quotey fingers when you see the location in the comic, an abandoned steel factory. And not only are Darius and Static gonna go after them, as well as his best friends Frida and Richie, they're gonna come along for the ride. And I also love how in this particular moment they're coming up with code names. I love how Richie comes up with the code name of Yellow Gear for himself, referring to the fact that he is blonde, but also a nod to his moniker as Gear in the Static Shock animated series. So it's a nice little nod there. We get to see a really cool kind of almost anime-esque fight scene from Static. Static is getting more into his persona as a superhero. So of course he's getting to the old quips and kind of corny comebacks and one-liners that we are used to seeing. There's even also being a D&D head. I love Dungeons and Dragons. I love the fact that he refers to his group, his friends, Darius, Richie, and Frida, as his adventuring party. I know some people thought this line was corny, but that also let me know that you guys aren't aware that Virgil is into Dungeons and Dragons, and your adventuring party it's your group, the people who you're playing D&D with. It's a thing. That I love when nerds who aren't really nerds, or people who claim to be nerds, kind of out themselves as not knowing as much as they think. But I don't know, it's just always incredibly funny to me, because it's like people who claim they used to read these comics back in the 90s, it's like they forgot that Virgil is a nerd. I mean, even him being into D&D, that's not even a new thing. He was into this sort of stuff, even going back to the original 92 run. There's even some issues where you see him playing it with his friends, or at the very least, even just talking about playing it. I don't know, neither here nor there. Point of the matter is, we do get to see Francis and Virgil throw down one more time, but this time is gonna go a little bit different than before. That said, Francis is gonna get the upper hand on Static. Francis is actually gonna do something that I am kind of surprised he didn't do from the very jump. He's gonna use the full force of his powers, unleashing them on Static, because he can't catch him. Static is faster than him. He's smarter than him. So Francis has to rely on overall brute force to try and win this battle, and he actually does get the one up on Virgil, catching him at point blank range, unleashing a blast of fire and flame that literally turns Virgil Hawkins into Al Simmons from Spawn. Now, I also do appreciate a good face-off reference, but that said, I do find it very interesting this happened, but I don't think that this fight is going to ultimately go exactly the way that Francis thinks it is. Knowing what we know now about how easily a Bang Baby can burn out their body's energy stores, and also seeing how this is something very similar to what happened in the past in the very first and second issue, when Francis initially fought Virgil at their home using their powers against one another. I think what's going to wind up happening is that Static is just baiting him into using up all his energy to the point where he's going to be weakened. I think Static is going to be just fine. I don't think he's in any dire straits here. This is just something that's gonna happen. Francis is technically one of his greatest enemies. What kind of enemy would he be if he couldn't get one up on his arch nemesis? Now, to be fair, it does seem like Virgil has fallen prey to depleting his own energy using his powers in the fight against those high-tech guards, as well as using his powers to levitate his friends and fight Francis himself. So maybe that also is going to play into it as well. But I'm pretty sure Francis, being the hothead that he is, and I mean that both figuratively and literally, I'm pretty sure he's not aware that he can burn himself out in the same way that Virgil is aware that he can burn himself out. But I'm very curious to see if Static, once again, as he always does and has in the past, he's going to use his intelligence to outsmart Francis rather than just using his powers alone. I'm really anxious to see how this is going to play out. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, Hulk smash that like button and make sure to share it all over the internet and with all your friends so they'll know how you leveled up your comic book big brain in regards to the return of Static. On your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because we're trying to hit 75,000 subscribers before the end of the year. So if you have not already become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers, now's the time to do it. Anyways, let me know what you thought about Static Season 1, Number 4. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.